Fear not, Ranger.
Now what do I do? Okay, this is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons video game cartridge.
Your dungeon master has placed you in a dreadfully precarious position. You're playing the most phenomenal game ever created.
Well, salutations, friends, everybody out there. What's going on? I'm not in the studio because I'm in front of a fireplace, but it's lovely to see everybody here. I got Chris and our guests, of course. We've got Tanner and Justin, how to be a better DM, joining us here on the Investigation Check this lovely, lovely Wednesday. Gentlemen, how are you all doing? Incredible, likewise. 8 out of 10. What would make it a 10 out of 10? I need to know. I'm going to forget to check back in, but remind me to check back in. I would like to see if that hypothesis is true. We will. We can roll an investigation check, if you will. Oh, we got... Ta-da! Oh, hang on, ladies and gentlemen. We're having technical difficulties at the moment for whatever stupid reason. Thank you, Thrasher, Asher in the chat, telling us that life is bad, but that's good to know. So we might have to do this again. Let's see what's gonna happen here.
Garrett cast silence on all of us.
I did apparently. Let's see if
it's rude.
Before it, got really good, of course. At least it was a convenient. What's the word I want? A convenient technical difficulty. Okay, so you're not muted. Oh,
wait.
Your speakers. Okay, so you're.
Asher said he could hear us again.
Yes.
Okay.
Does. So yeah, you should be good. Okay, so, let's roll that back now. Salutations, everybody. Hello, once again. Now everybody is here. I hope nobody's hearing double because something that wasn't there is now there. But I hope everybody's doing well. I hope I'm coming out of both of your headphones and it doesn't sound weird. We've got Justin and Tanner here from How to Be a Better DM. They are doing great, they've told me. You don't know that, but that's what they told me. They're doing lovely. Chris might be a 10 out of 10 by the end of the podcast, and that's all you've missed. And now they're telling us all about what How to Be a Better DM is all about. So please, again, Justin, take it away.
Sure. So catching you up for what you might have heard or might not have heard, I've been playing D&D for about 5 years or so. I'm relatively new to the DMing space, and honestly, that was one of the impetuses or the impeti or the promptings, I guess, for why I started How to Be a Better DM, because I was like, there aren't a ton of podcasts. Well, I thought at the time there aren't a ton of podcasts. It's funny, market research is a thing, but there aren't a ton of podcasts about teaching you how to be a better dungeon master. Instead, there's lots of live play podcasts and things, and those are awesome. But me, I was like, you know what? I've been doing this for only like a year or so. How do I get better? And then I decided, you know what? I might as well just make a podcast about it because I think it's fun, and hopefully it'll turn into kind of a community where I can actually talk to people and stuff. And so far it has. And then, fast forward a few months and I was like, What this really needs is someone else who's also very smart, smarter than me, and offers better perspectives on a lot of things. And actually, I thought of Tanner because we used to work at Papa Murphy's together when we were younger.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was my manager, and we'd talk about Star Wars all day. And I thought of him, and he jumped at the opportunity, and he's been an excellent addition. And Tanner, you can actually tell about yourself now if you want.
Yeah, I mean, Justin and I were two birds of a feather. We're both people that are interested in D&D and doubt ourselves just enough that we're like, we can probably do this better, you know? Uh, have that healthy or not so healthy lack of confidence. And so,
Self-awareness, self-awareness.
yeah,
Yes,
thank
yes.
you. Thank you
That's a
for
good way
putting in
to
good
that's a
terms.
good way to spin it.
But yeah, we were just like, hey, let's see what we can do here. And it's been really good because I found that there's a lot of wonderful and very experienced DMs out there. And I've only, been a DM for like 7 years. But I found that, just the process of thinking over what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we could do it better, it's nice because it takes you out. Because I don't know if you guys are similar, but whenever I'm in the midst of planning for a campaign, every time that I'm thinking about the campaign, I'm just trying to cram. It's constant. It's just crunch. It's just constant crunch time. Where I'm not actually thinking, oh, how can I be better in my DMing style? And this podcast kind of gives us a space to do that and also learn from others as we invite them to do that with us.
And if I can add one more thing, another reason why I specifically thought of Tanner was because one, he introduced me, or at least I think it was you, to Brandon Sanderson's podcast about writing excuses and how to write better. And kind of through that, we also connected in college and joined a writing group together. And I think that has also connected us as far as kind of mindset goes about DMing. Starting with the writing process rather than starting with the mechanical process, which they're kind of separate.
I also enjoy that podcast with Brandon Sanderson and all of his works. I'm also
Hmm.
a bit of a writing nerd myself. So I had some other questions planned, but now I've got to know. So writing is all of your writing like specifically like in the D&D TTRPG space, or are there other avenues and places where you write?
Tanner, do you want to go first?
Yeah, yeah. For me, most of my writing is short story stuff. However, recently, some of my siblings and we've decided to, hate ourselves and get into game development, and so we're kind of bending the writing more towards, narrative design there, and so that's kind of what's happening right now.
Yeah. As,
Awesome.
as far as me, like all of my writing right now is geared towards tabletop role playing. It's funny when I was younger, like when you're a kid, you're like, oh, what do you want to do when you grow up? And you say like some random thing. I said I wanted to be a writer, and then I went to English class, and I was like, I never want to be a writer. Like, this is terrible. And then in college, Tanner and myself, like, you have to take English classes, so I took a creative writing class, and that blossomed into a writing group. And I was like, you know what, maybe. And so who knows if I turn into something else later, but right now this is kind of what I'm devoting my quote unquote writing skills on.
Honestly, the you know that you should be a writer when you're writing something, and it doesn't even matter if it's going to be something that gets published or put out there for commercial space, or if anybody's even going to read it. It's just like, I need to write this
Mhm.
story. I need to get it out, in onto paper or phone screen, whatever you're writing it on. You gotta get it out. You gotta pull the words out real quick and get it on
Mhm.
to the thing. I am also doing quite a bit of writing these days. Um, Writing some adventures with this one over here, Garrett. So
Let's
doing a little
go.
TTRPG goodness. And one day I am gonna get a novel out there sometime. I have a work in
That's
progress.
awesome.
It is ridiculous, the amount of work that goes into a large novel is crazy. Because like you read a book and you're just like, you know what, yeah, I could do that, and then you start doing it and you're just like, there's so many words,
Yeah.
so much, but it's amazing. I love it.
Any taste we can get of what your novel is?
I will give you this. Imagine like the old 1600s kind of vibe, Salem witch trials, all that stuff going down. What if magic was real and we're gonna amp up the remember that guns were just coming into play in this time of life. So there's the new invention of the gun, population is exploding, and you have magic, and it's coming to a head. Craziness ensues. So what
Interesting.
happens? You'll just have to find out one day in
So
32 years
so
when
it's
I finish
so
it.
it's kind of like the Industrial Revolution meets magical revolution, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, because it's kind of creeping on their territory,
Yeah.
right? Like the
Yeah.
the the non-magic people, they're like, you know what? I feel like I finally got something that's on your level. It's
Hmm.
like when the wizard is
It's
like,
awesome.
"Ooh, I got fireball," and the artificer's like, "I have a gun." You know,
We have a
um,
Hulk. Yeah.
exactly, and it shoots 2d8s per turn. So
Right.
get
Yes.
ready. Um,
Yep.
uh, the How to Be a Better DM podcast, y'all also have a one shot system or situation going on. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So we really like I said, I'd done a different podcast before, and one of the failings with that previous podcast about a completely different topic was I never really got an opportunity to connect with listeners. You know, you see download numbers and you're like, okay, that's a number. Um, and we really wanted to figure out a way to get us in contact with the people who are actually listening or theoretically listening. And we also wanted to like an opportunity to, just play D&D a little bit,
Yeah.
And so we're like, hey, maybe we could do these monthly and then quarterly and now monthly again one shots. Um, and it's also been cool because we've kind of struck on the idea of connecting with people like you and Garrett, and also inviting people like you and Garrett on and having you guest host these one shots, so that way it's not just me and Tanner, but every other month it's someone from a different organization or media outlet. And it's at least in my opinion, it's like one of the coolest things of the podcast because it's just like building community, connecting with people, and just like being face to face, hopefully if they use their screen, but being face to face with our listeners, and then actually being able to ask them questions like, okay, so like what do you really think about the background music, what do you think about this, that, and the other thing, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I yeah, when I heard y'all talking about that, I was like, man, can I sign up? And then like the next thing you said was that it was all full, and I was like, okay, I'll just wait for the next one. Because it does sound like a really good time. It's like, you know what, this sounds great. And this one shot that's coming up, when is it? What is it? Give us a little info.
Sure. um Tanner, I'll let you kind of explain some of it, just because I don't know what information you do or don't want me to share.
I mean, so I'll just say this. I was originally going to be doing it, and then my wife's grandma passed away yesterday. And so Justin is being a saint and he's stepping in. So I don't know what he has planned. I'm
Yes.
gonna have to push mine back a couple months.
Yeah. So I think Tanner's will be running in December. We have I'll be running the September's one shot, which will be on September 17th at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. And um, actually, I think there is still so we had a spot open up. So there's probably one more spot now. But this will probably be an only 225 games kind of thing because we haven't told anyone else because it just opened up today.
You got the
But if
scoop. Look at that.
Yeah, you guys got the
There
scoop.
it is.
Awesome.
Scoop.
There's one spot. It's going to be an adventure for uh, level 5 characters. To sign up for that, you just go to betterdungeonmaster.com/one-shot. And then if you're just interested in watching it, you can actually, on September 17th at 2 o'clock, go to betterdungeonmaster.com/watch. And we haven't quite figured out the technology, but go to that link on that day and you'll be able to see it. I promise. I just got to figure out how to fulfill that promise. And then next October, or this October, we also have another one shot on the 22nd. This one's being hosted by guest host Bone Daddy Rob from This Dungeon Is Occupied, which is another show similar to ours. And he's a big aficionado of horror movies. And so we thought it would be, apropos to invite him and have him do a horror themed one shot. And I'm kind of excited, but I'm also kind of nervous because, like, he asked that question of like, so how far can I go and how do you deal with trigger warnings? And I was like, whoa, like that's that's intense. But yeah, so that's gonna be on the 22nd. And then in November, we're having, or at least, we have verbal agreement with the host Rob from Dungeons, Dragons, and Psychology, which is another show similar to ours, and he should be coming on as a guest host. November is completely open, so if you do want to sign up and there's no spots in October or September, we'll get you in November. And then if you want Tanner specifically, just make a note somewhere in the sign up sheet, and we'll select you for December.
I
They're
see.
like anybody but Tanner, please.
Anybody but, or put in the note, is he gonna have this sweet voice that he's got going right now?
Exactly.
Tell me he's gonna be sick at the time of the one shot.
That's gonna be a requirement, everybody. No, that's amazing. I love the horror campaign idea because I want to play in a horror campaign sometime, because I love a good like whimsical, like, it's kind of light, we're kind of funny. It's got some serious moments, we're doing some stuff. I do love that, but sometimes I just want to shake it up and be like, I want you to scare the crap out of me. Uh, so that's awesome. So we're want to switch gears just a little bit, and I know we've kind of missed the part for a warm up, but I noticed one thing that y'all do in y'all's podcast is y'all have a warm up question for your guests. So I'm going to turn the table around for the two of you and give you a warm up question. And Garrett, you can feel free to chime in on this too. Um, but for your warm up question, in D&D, this might be a little technical, but in D&D 5e, how much does a roof cost?
Whoa, that is a
Evan.
good friggin' question.
Ooh.
Roof. Okay. Uh,
Oh man.
okay.
Too much, am I right? No, I'm just kidding.
In this economy,
In this
In this
economy?
economy? Are you kidding me?
is it like?
No.
Okay, this is a dumb question, but is it like cost per square footage you're looking for, or is it like, is a roof for like a big old town hall is probably different than like a
That's my
little thatched
question.
roof?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Like, are we thatched roof? Are we?
just standard roof.
standard
Okay.
run of the mill. I just need a roof. It's my house. I'm a commoner.
You know
Uh,
Okay.
what? I know it's not gold, but it's also maybe not copper. I'm gonna say like 2 to 5 silver. That's what I'm
Two five
throwing out.
seven. Okay.
I'm gonna do the over, uh, and I'm gonna say 3 to 7 gold.
Way over. Okay, 3 7 gold,
Oh
2 5
dang!
silver.
You
Oh,
living in a castle, bud?
well, no, I was
Got a
thinking like
nice house.
gold is like how much someone might get paid a day, right? So I was like, oh, it would take someone like 3 days to do it, or depending on the roof. Um, Obviously, I was way off, and I've never built a roof myself, so that's probably why it was so much
I
better.
have paid for a roof replacement before. It was not fun. It was like, very expensive. So
Yeah.
you might be a little bit more on the right side here. But do you want to know the official rules as written answer?
I'm gonna go
This
with
is a
4.6599304 ounces. That's a very specific amount of ounces, but an
Ounces of
$8,000
what?
of,
USD gold. This is gold.
of
Okay.
gold.
So
I
Okay,
was
not,
like,
not even coins. He's in
yeah,
ounces of
I
gold.
am
Okay.
in ounces of pure
Wow.
gold. So I don't know what the weight of a gold coin is. What is that, a kilogram? But an ounce, 4.65 ounces. Now whatever that would be in gold coin weightage, it is that much in my humble
I,
opinion.
also, I'm changing my vote. I'm gonna say 8 silver.
8 silver. Okay. Okay.
Yes, final
So
gold.
we kind of went up a little bit. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and lock y'all in. But rules is written. D&D 5e. Price of the roof is it's on the house. But it's for free because it's on the house.
Oh my
Good one.
goodness. You have kids, Chris? Because that joke makes me think you might have kids.
I do not. But
Guys, I have to go. I just got a little sicker. I can't I can't do this.
this was
I
not in the
love how
contract.
I love how we all spent so much time like in a job interview. How many windows are in New York City? And we're like trying to do the math, and then you're just
Someone, jump on Google real quick.
yeah.
How much
Let's
did
go.
straw go for? Uh,
132.14 gold would be, so it would be 132 and 14 silver. 132 gold pieces and 14 silver pieces would be the exact amount, I think, if I did that math right, and I probably didn't. But if
you
you
have to
wanted
show
the
me how you got that
mathematical,
math. Some
Actually,
point.
you're probably right though, Chris. Like most people probably would just fix their own roof rather than paying someone else to do it.
I
If that's
know,
the
right?
case. Yeah.
I know. I would. I mean, it's not
Right.
like you have to. Back in those days, you don't have the city come out and to approve it or whatever. It's like it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
up to code. It just needs to black out the sun for a few hours. I guess. I
Exactly. Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
uh,
I'm seeing some people like there's a discussion in D&D Beyond where someone said that 1 gold equaled 10,000 US dollars.
what?
absolutely
And
not.
at least and I'm like, I'm sorry, that feels too much.
Are they like using
Um
inflation? Like, is that how they got to $10,000 or?
oh, here it is. Actually, this one's better. Using the standard D&D weight of 50 gold pieces to a pound, we find that each gold piece would be worth about $285. And how much is a
I
roof? Like 10,000, 20,000? Oh wait, it's on the house. I forgot. Why are we
it's
even asking?
That's right. It's on the house. Oh man, I was really struggling to keep that together there as y'all got very serious. I was like, don't laugh, don't
That
laugh.
was a good one. That was very good.
Amazing.
We're very
you're
proud
welcome.
of you, Chris. We appreciate you.
I appreciate that. I hope everybody feels warmed up now.
Impressive.
Um, so I guess some more serious questions. So you do a lot of work helping people to become better DMs. Uh, what is something that in the process of like you doing these podcasts, maybe you did some research or something like that, like in the process of making the podcast itself, not like DMing at the table, but in the process of doing this, what is something that you learned? Like, what was probably something like one of the biggest things that you learned that helped you as a DM doing this? Maybe the research that you've been doing, or the coachings that you've been giving people, things like that. What is something that you feel like you've learned?
Uh, I'll go. I've got one in my head. So I think understanding when I'm railroading players uh, is has been something I've learned a lot. Uh, for example, like I think also during this podcast I've realized that railroading isn't always bad, right? Because sometimes you're like, hey, I want an adventure to go a certain way. I don't want to plan for every possibility. But something I've learned is like, hey, if you're gonna do that, you have to provide a way that the characters would be motivated to do it, right? Instead of just pushing them there against their own character's will, right? So kind of learning when it's okay, like when it's fine to want to railroad someone, and if you don't, how you can truly give them real options, but also if you do choose to railroad, how can you motivate them? Uh, and yeah, that's something I've learned recently.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I I think for me, one thing is, and it kind of goes back to the funny comment you said about how Garrett never prepares for sessions and whatnot. Um, I,
Thanks, Chris.
I've learned from talking with the other DMs that we talk with that it's not necessarily all inter-session prep, but it's it's sometimes a little bit more deeper than that. Like a lot of DMs come up with stuff, resources that allow them to improv in a very nice way. Like I found an app that allows you to pull out random PCs when your players are like, nope, we're gonna go into a pastry store, and you're like, there's, I didn't, okay, I guess there's one now. But also just kind of behind the scenes work of the overall story arc, which then allows you to riff in the middle, but you understand the major waypoints that you're trying to get to. Like if you understand that at some point they need to meet a lich, and that lich is going to try and offer them a deal, and you can really place that lich almost anywhere that kind of makes sense in the moment, and it's probably going to even be a little bit better because you're going to be in like the moment. You're going to feel it. You're going to be like, oh, that's a really cool idea, and you're going to get that wicked DM smile, and then you're going to do it, and your players are going to hate you, and they're going to think that you're just like this magical wizard. Really, it's just you've created, like, I guess the best analogy I can come up with is, rather than baking the cake in between sessions, you essentially come up with all the ingredients you need, and then at a moment's notice, you can kind of pour those in, mix it up, and cook it, and it's still this delicious pastry. I don't know why I'm thinking about pastries. Maybe I'm hungry. Whatever.
Love it.
Nothing wrong with good pastries. And also, for what it's worth, I vote that the lich should be in the pastry shop. Like he should be the business owner, you know.
Oh
And
my
he's just
gosh,
like, "Come here, my pretties. I have wonderful pastries for you."
that would be
Um,
such a twist.
He
don't you want to make
sounds like a creep. I'll be honest.
He sounds like a crepe. Is that what you said?
No, creep, but crepe sounds even better now. Man,
What a crepe.
what a
Uh,
crepe.
Crepey guy.
Y'all are just on a
welcome
roll
to.
tonight.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh yeah, because it's pastry, right? It's on a roll.
you're right.
Yeah,
Butter
absolutely.
on a roll to success, you know?
Welcome to our podcast where we investigate the dad jokes for Dungeons and Dragons.
Of
And we
the
do it
world.
fairly well, actually. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, that was good. I promise only one of those was planned, y'all. Only one. No, I do really love that, like having the general idea of kind of like where things are gonna go. Um, and because you also don't want to, like you said, bake the entire cake beforehand. Because then what happens is if they don't go that direction, right? And so then you could run into the trap. It's like, haha, but I'm going to be very prepared, and I'm going to be prepared if in case they go this way, or if they go this way, or the other 500 directions that parties could go. And now you've just spent 3 months in between this 1 week session preparing for this one or for all these different situations what they could do. You never know what parties are going to do, and sometimes you have that player that's sitting at the table who wants to find out what would be the best way to make my DM like do a face palm real quick, and I may or may not be that player. Ask my DM Garrett.
He is 100% that player, and he plays Trouble. The character's name is Trouble, and he plays him accordingly. So
Yes.
there you go.
Love it.
I do have a question though, actually, kind of to tack off what you guys are talking about right now. As you said earlier, you're kind of getting into game development and adventure writing, which is kind of a form of creative writing. So as you start to write these adventures and kind of get them ready for publication and whatnot, when you are prepping that adventure and you're writing it, how do you know as the author what to include and what to exclude and what's important and maybe what's not as important? And what's left up to the DM to decide on their own?
This is a good question. I'll take a whack at it. So, when we started, or I guess when I started How to Be a Better DM and then later brought Tanner on, I decided, you know what? I'm going to start kind of my own world building project. I'd always wanted to do my own world building thing. And when we started doing the one shots, I was like, hey, this is an excellent opportunity to playtest materials with actual people who can't say no because they don't know what they're getting into. So for a lot of the one shots I've done, I've actually done those one shots previously with friends, designed for this world building world. And then after that, in preparation for doing the one shots, I change things here and there. So I guess in answer to your question is the writing process for me, because I am a discovery writer, unfortunately, and then maybe fortunately, I don't know, which means I hate the revision process. And the revision process to me is when like it meets the hardest contact available. It is played by people, and I see the reactions, and I I see the entire party get blown up by one particular NPC that blows up when it dies and causes this massive chain reaction that actually kills two or three people in the one shot. And I'm left being like, oh, that was not particular. Like this is not the end of the game, but they're dead. So, again, for me, it's kind of trial and error.
Okay, cool. Tanner, did you want to add on to that, or do you have anything to contribute?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm kind of the I don't know. I'm more of a planner in terms of just I do an outline and then I expand on each point in that outline, right? And in my mind, uh, in terms of like what to be prescriptive with when we're writing an adventure versus leaving it open to the DM, I think if it's a major plot point, gotta flesh it out as much as you can. If it's certain like events or encounters, you want those very specific because honestly, the more specific an encounter is, the easier it is for the DM. So they don't have to juggle everything and come up with things at the same time. In terms of characters, I would get the main characters ready, fleshed out, good motivations, ideals, personality, whole shebang. Uh, with a caveat, of course, that they can always change it if they want, um, but get those fleshed out. And then for other ones, I honestly like including in my adventures some random elements like what is it, like charts, where they just roll on it and multiple things can happen, and then they kind of just riff off that. And so I like including, both very prescriptive things, but also things like elements or activities where it's like, hey, it can go whichever way you would really want, in terms of like small side things, right?
Okay.
And if I can just add to that, actually, I think one thing that maybe we don't talk enough about on our show is that being a DM is a skill based hobby. It's not just writing, but it's practicing writing over and over and over again, essentially. So, you know, whether you're a planner or you're a discovery writer, you do have to do it multiple times in order to find that good balance of I do have enough here and it's ready for publication, or I have enough here and it's ready for the first play test, and then I got to go back and revise it. And you also kind of need to understand your own skill set. Uh, Maybe you do need to write out a lot more of the word for word conversation that the big bad boss has versus someone else who is a lot more improv savvy, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard balance to strike between the amount of preparation and improv that you should have. I know the problem that I run into when I'm DMing something. I will if I over prepare, like I just have a lot of things in there. As I'm running the session, I just change it. Like
Mhm.
I change stuff all the time, like left and right. I add in an NPC here or take this out there. And I'm not talking about just like fudging rolls or like, oh, this health should be a little lower. Maybe this shouldn't hit so hard. Not things like that. I'm not talking about stat blocks. I'm talking about like narrative choices. Like, I maybe we should meet the sheriff here at this point because I feel like they need a socializing moment in this encounter, and maybe that just means that I'm just not very good at the writing piece, but it happens all the time. Even when I'm like really happy with the preparation I've done and like the product I have, like while I'm running it, I react to the table and I'm like, I want to make this different.
Yeah.
Uh, I also have the other problem, and maybe y'all can help me out with this. When I under prepare and I'm just kind of improving it, sometimes you get those moments where it's like that did not work anywhere near the way that I wanted it to, and it kind of fell flat on its face because I did not have it fleshed out of what I wanted this to be.
Yeah, I find like I think one of the past one shots I've done, there was an encounter with like the main boss, and I'd planned a lot of the other stuff pretty well, but that one I kind of was like, I had a lot of ideas, and I was like, okay, I think I got this. And then when it came to do it, and have the big boss encounter, I realized I wasn't as prepared as I thought. Um, and so I kind of had to change it up on the fly to make it more exciting. Uh, and it was okay, but I think when I've realized that I haven't prepared enough for something, uh, the sometimes the best I can do is just be like, okay, I'm going to, in the midst of this soup of unpreparedness that I've just prepared for myself, whether it's an encounter or a role playing opportunity or whatever, I'm going to, right now decide one part that I'm going to put more obvious effort into, right? So let's say that it's an issue where you feel like, oh my goodness, I haven't been very descriptive with my settings throughout the entire session, right? If you notice that, that's a great opportunity to be like, okay, while they're talking amongst themselves or whatever, what is the next scene or the setting that we're going into? Okay, I'm going to nail that. Yeah, I don't have time to prepare, but I'm going to make an effort to be like, okay, when they walk into this house, even if it's a boring old house, I'm going to, spruce it up in my in my description. Basically, if you find in the middle of a session that you've been lax in your preparation, kind of be like, okay, fine, I'm going to riff kind of the most expansive description, or expand on one thing just to kind of make up for it in the moment, and then learn from it and do better in the future, right?
Yeah.
I like that
Um,
as well.
I
Actually,
would add that maybe, and I've actually like I did this last week where you know um, even if I felt semi prepared enough, like at the end of the session I was like, I think my character or my players probably had a boring time because like it was mostly dialogue. They didn't really do much, and I told my wife and I was like, hey, like sorry if that was boring, and she was like, what are you talking about? I love that. That was super fun. So I would always gauge the reaction and even ask your players how they felt because maybe you're perceiving something that's not entirely true. Maybe if you feel unprepared, but it was still a freaking good session, then it doesn't matter. Um, and maybe you should do more of that. I don't know. But one thing that always helps me, and maybe this is because I kind of have an anxious personality, and I don't know if you can see, but I'm somewhat scatterbrained, and sometimes my brain just goes blah, 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 and I trip over myself. Whether I'm over prepared or underprepared, what helps me is to slow myself down and calm down, because then it gets my brain moving in a very linear way, and I can solve problems and improv a lot easier. Even if I'm over prepared and they're doing crazy stuff, or I'm underprepared, I can drive the story forward in a meaningful way simply by regulating myself and making sure that I'm not just this crazy person that I am usually, but instead I'm collected.
I like that. That's really good. I personally am not a very experienced DM. I'm mostly a player. That's where I love to do the things, but I dabble. So I like that advice. That's really good. I'm gonna take that as my takeaway.
I
Do
think
it.
the biggest takeaway for me is that I'm never underprepared. I'm just a discovery writer. So
That's it. You figured it out.
that's it. That's just how I roll.
A
And
confident discovery writer, right?
Bingo,
Like what we were
exactly.
saying earlier.
and
It's like a
and
bad
for the
musician making artistic choices instead of playing in tune,
Exactly.
Yeah.
yes, live in the moment,
Yeah.
or prepare in the moment, as Garrett would say.
Absolutely. And don't take notes. Notes are for nerds.
Notes are for nerds. That's a saying we have at our table.
Yeah.
And for the record, Garrett is quite good at the Discovery DMing. His style is quite good, even though he
Oh,
doesn't
thank you,
prepare it.
friend.
Um, I gotta make sure I put that in there because I give you shots, but it's all in love. Um, so last question before we move on to the next segment. So and then because again I'm kind of a newbie DM here as well, and I'm starting to find that some things are very gimmicky. Like, oh, if I have this like little gimmick thing right here, it'll make the session so much better. But it's just an end of the day, like it's gimmicky. So what would you think are some things that are just like gimmicky things for a DM versus like foundational, like you should probably focus on this to make a great session.
I'll start out. I have a podcast episode about about kind of this concept, but uh, I mention all the time that to play D&D or any tabletop role playing game, essentially, all you need is, well, a table, because I guess it's tabletop, but you don't actually need that. You essentially just need a story, uh, something to record things that happen, and that's not even like 100% necessary. And then a set of rules that are agreed upon by the people who are playing. That is that is like barest of bare bones, everything you need to play D&D and have fun and win, because you win at D&D by just having fun. So everything else on that is just kind of building in the experience. And I totally understand what you mean by gimmicky, like um, like we just added some LED lights down near our dining room table, and our dining room is in a very open area where there's lots of lighting, so you can't even see them. So I guess that's kind of gimmicky because it doesn't have the effect you're wanting.
But it's cool.
Um, and yes, it is cool. And see, that's the thing. As a DM, you can have these gimmicky things and you can try them out. And I'd encourage you to try them out, see what works, see what doesn't. But you definitely have to commit, because how much you give is how much your players are going to perceive is kind of valuable. So if you're spending the time to make sure the lights are cool, then your players will see that. But they'll also see that you haven't been spending any time on the story, because you're going to be like, you go and open a door and there's a troll, and then you kill the troll, and then you're going to be done because that's all you have. So again, like the barest of the bones, you just need people to play with, a story, and then rules that everyone agrees upon to play with. And we have that in D&D. So all you need is the story and the people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because all you have are fancy lights and no real story. It's like, oh, but those lights are
Yeah,
so cool.
exactly.
Uh, Also, fun fact: I did not play D&D on a table until I started playing with Garrett at the beginning of this year. Because when I played as a kid, we played second edition. I played on the floor. Like I was literally laying on the floor, like full spread on the floor. My character sheet was right here in front of me, and I would just roll my dice right here on the ground, and I'd just be laying on the floor as we had all played together.
I love it.
So tables not necessary. Just so
Yeah.
all you
You don't
people
even need
know.
tables in tabletop
You
role
don't you
playing.
don't even need tables. You just need
No.
So
that
what?
RP.
It's just role playing? Are you guys
What?
insane?
That's so crazy. So crazy. Um, yeah. Sorry. Justin just answered. Tanner, did you have anything you wanted to add on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, there's multiple things, but the thing that came to my mind right now, and maybe it's a small thing, but I think that a lot of DMs can get very comfortable or cliche with how they start encounters, slash how they do perception checks in general, because typically, how I've seen it done is, the players are in a room, and then right before the encounter happens, the DM's like, "Okay, everybody roll," and then it's like, "Oh, you didn't do well, so I guess the enemy, got up on you, but not on you." And I'm like, "That's cool." Some way that I've seen others do it that actually makes it a lot more engaging and more horrifying in some cases, which I think is a nice
Mm.
way to start an encounter, is right when someone enters a space, you know, the DM's like, okay, everybody roll, a perception. And then from there, then they just keep it to the side. And then, like, after that, they're like, okay, what do you guys want to do? And the players are going about it. And then from that, the DM's are actually able to uh, essentially find a creative and thematic way to introduce this fight, whether it's like with a player rolling a check because, oh my goodness, this tentacle wraps around their leg, because they failed, but instead of having it be like, oh, roll, okay, tentacle around your leg, that's like,
Mhm.
that's very different from having them do a few things, get kind of immersed in the ambiance, and then kind of just weaving in the start of that encounter in a more natural way. um
Yeah.
yeah.
I like that. And and I'm ready for that encounter to start where you open up the door of the room and it's all the monsters sitting at a table playing cards or playing D&D and they're just
Yes.
like, "What? Oh, roll initiative." Like don't even worry about perception because you saw them. I wanted you to see that they were playing poker.
And then
Exactly.
the characters go up to the table and grab some of the dice from the monsters and roll initiative. And then now you're playing D&D in D&D to get
Yes,
meta.
absolutely.
And then one of the monsters like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that.
And then a fist fight, and then comes out of the game, and now you're fighting in the
And
game,
there it
but
is.
not in. Yeah,
Yes.
confusing.
Yes. Oh, I got it. One of the monsters is a rules lawyer, and the other one's a min-max power gamer. Boom.
Classic.
Yep.
Got it.
Classic.
Got it. There's their evil motivation, everything. Got it. So Garrett, I'm gonna need that sometime. Just letting you know for the table.
That's quite a gimmick, I think, and it's gonna be great.
Yep. Yep.
No. uh,
I think it works though, at least
Yeah.
for me.
awesome. Awesome. I'm glad. I'm glad. So I want to move into the next segment.
Wait, before we do,
Oh,
as a
okay.
caveat to that, I was listening to what is it, D&D lore podcast. So it's another podcast,
Mhm.
but it's about the lore. And one of the dudes that does it is in Arlington, where I used to be, which is a side note.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, they do Magic Item of the Week on DM's Guild, and I was listening to them, and they had this magic item called the Coin of the Storyteller. And the Coin of the Storyteller has a button on it, and when you press the button, the character then trades places with the DM, and then the character DMs the session for like 5 minutes as they are the character, and whatever they do is canon.
Yeah.
Wait a second. So who's switching with? Are the
The-
players switching with the character or?
That's how I did it. But
Okay.
whenever the coin is pressed by the player, or by the character, excuse me, as their coin's pressed by the character, that character then becomes the DM for like 5 minutes or so, and then the DM becomes that character. So now they're role playing as that character, while the player is now the DM for like 5 minutes or whatever. But they have to DM as the character. They can't DM as themselves DMing like how they would normally DM, but they have to DM in the style
Mm.
of the character for an allotted amount of time. And
That
it's
is
called the Coin of the
mind-numbing.
Storyteller, and I don't remember who made it. Otherwise, I'd give them credit. But Coin of the Storyteller is the name of the magic item, and I used it at my table a couple times, and it had 4 charges, and it kind of got passed around, and everybody had this out-of-body experience, and they could suddenly see everything from an isometric view, and then they just kind of played God for 5 minutes, and it was probably one of the better sessions we've had. To go on about, playing D&D in D&D, now you're DMing as your character, so it's like the inverse of what you're doing.
Oh dang.
It was very interesting, and that coin ran out of charges very quickly.
Yeah.
20 minutes later.
And done.
That's funny.
I still have that coin, actually. So
You do.
I'll have to use that sometime. Anyway, our next segment. I like to find random ideas. And I like to ask your DM brains how you're going to handle this type of situation. Especially Garrett, because I want to know what I can get away with as a player at his table. But that has absolutely nothing to do with the real reason why I'm doing this. But this week, I wanted to talk about potion miscibility. Now, before you Google anything, who knows what that is? Tanner's eyes are narrowing. I'm getting a sense that he has no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea either.
Did you say potion missability?
Miscibility.
Missability, as in the chance that it can not work?
No. No,
Can
my
you
friend.
spell that?
Miscibility.
Oh, like the
Miscibility.
ability to mix potions.
Yes. Yes.
Mix. Okay.
It's a chemical word, a chemistry word, where you mix 2 solutions together to create one compound.
Yes.
Quite.
Quite.
So yes, quite.
Huh.
So my character has a potion of speed and a potion of giant strength. I forget the exact name of it, but the one that makes you Hulk out for a bit. And decides, you know what? For this BBEG fight, I am going to put both of these potions in the same bottle, and I'm gonna drink it. That way, it only takes me that one action or bonus action if you're playing really cool, to drink the potion. I like to DM that situation.
You can go first, Tanner, if you want.
Go for it. Go for it.
So, assuming your character is trying to mix them together in order to use them at the same time, but also kind of has this idea that maybe they can amplify each other's abilities, right? I would have you. The way I do D&D is anything can happen, but there's always a cost, and maybe the cost determines whether or not it can happen. So, for mixing these, you'd I would have you do some sort of intelligence check, probably add a modifier for proficiency if you are proficient with alchemical supplies or maybe a brewer's supplies because those kind of work. Um,
I rolled a
yeah,
16 minus one because I'm a dumb fighter.
cool. Okay. In that case, so go ahead and roll a d4 and then add, let's see, add one. Yeah.
Oh, where's my D4? Oh, here it is. Oh yeah. I rolled a 4 plus 1, you say?
Aha. Okay, cool. So essentially, the plus one was just a modifier to make it so you didn't roll a one. The way I had it in my head was one means that similar to kind of the properties of light waves or sound waves, sometimes sound waves can bounce off each other and destroy the wave, so decrease sound when they hit each other. Sometimes sound waves can bounce off each other and amplify each other, and other times you just get one or the other. So, one was the potions somewhat negate each other and you don't get really either one. Two would be you get potion of speed, three would you'd get potion of strength, and four you get both as well as kind of a slight amplification is what I would do. It also took about an hour of you sitting down, measuring out, kind of, pull out your beakers and your alchemical supplies, boiling it to make it into a gaseous form, and then condensing it back into the other potion, where
Mm.
rather than just pouring them together, you're actually alchemically engineering a new potion. So it might be called the potion of giant speed or something like that, or the potion of speedy strength. I don't know what I would call it, but it would give you both abilities of the potions as well as a slight amplification. At least that's how I would do it.
That would be a really sweet artificer subclass if you could mix potions together.
Yeah.
Mixologist.
Yes, yes. I'm a bartender. I wear a fancy, suit with the vest and the bow tie
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
That's got to be a Storia Loose background or Storia Loose subclass.
Gonna make
Absolutely.
a cocktail. Um, that is amazing. Okay, so what I'm hearing is Justin is for it, but he's got some stipulations. Okay, so I
Yeah.
like that.
Uh,
Tanner, you wanna roll in on here?
yes, I agree. I think I'd have two situations here. If they're doing it on their own time, right? Where it's like, oh, they have plenty of time. They're not in a rush. They're just mixing something together. Kind of very similar to Justin's. I'd be like, okay, you have some options here. You can either do, you know, maybe you're a dex person. You can either do sleight of hand, or you can do medicine if you're more wisdom. Uh, and from there, basically, it would just be a roll to see how well it goes. But I would give them. It would basically the role would be more about how effective it was, like how powerful, you know, in like getting both different buffs, both the strength and also the speed kind of buff. But if they're doing it on the fly, and I think this one's more fun, if they're doing it on the fly and they're just like, oh, you're gonna mix the two, then just throw it back, then I would have them do that same check.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are that, like, but here's the caveat: if they rolled low, they're gonna get less of a bonus. But I'm not gonna tell them that until they actually drink it, and that they're gonna get less of a bonus. And actually, after the effect wears off, they're going to have a negative in each of those areas, as in like it just combined poorly, you know, because they didn't take their time, they didn't get the measurements right, they didn't
Yeah.
dilute it with other stuff. So, yeah, that's what I'd do.
I
I
just
really like
imagine.
that too.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead, Justin. Go
I'm
ahead.
just gonna say, I just imagine a character like for like 2 rounds, they're like super fast, and then all of a sudden they stop. And for the next 2 rounds, they're just hurling across everything in their path, just
Oh.
like bleh,
Exactly.
projectile vomiting because like the chemical reaction. It's like Mentos and Coca-Cola, kind of.
Ooh,
Exactly.
or they were hasted for 2 rounds and now they're slowed for 2 rounds. Like that could
Yeah.
be fun too, or something. I really like the your take on there. It's like you're not gonna know until you drink it. So just do
Yep.
that lovely. Why don't you roll me a die? And they tell you that what they rolled. You're like, okay, nothing
And be
else. Just
like,
say okay.
yeah, should be like, okay, so it turns to this color. Okay, so what do you do next? You know?
It it didn't explode.
Exactly. Yeah, because like a natural one would be like, okay, I'm gonna save you the trouble. It explodes in your hand. Bad chemical reaction. You've got acid burns. You know.
Mhm.
That's not so good. Garrett, would you like to weigh in on how you would DM that situation if your trouble
While
player
everybody
decided to do
was
this?
giving their responses, I was doing a little research, and I stumbled
No, no
across this.
research.
Well, I
No.
stumbled. There will be a little research, you see, because what would the real life implications of this be, right? So I stumbled a little upon a small organization. You may have heard of them. They're called the FDA. It stands for Fantasy Drug Administration,
Oh yes.
and
Okay.
the FDA has said compounded drugs can severe or can no, that's the wrong paragraph. FDA has observed troubling conditions during many of its inspections of compounding facilities, including toaster ovens for sterilization, pet beds near sterile compounding. That's not the paragraph either. Anyway, all of this to say, um, it it might work. Roll a dice, and whatever I feel like,
Okay.
I'll let it happen if I'm happy.
Yes.
Depends
But I
on
So
try
how
to
much
back it
the
up with
player has been
science.
making fun of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So if am I a good DM or am I going to DM as Garrett? Let's see. So if Garrett has to make the decision, sure. If you've been a jerk all session, no, it explodes in your hand and you may have a heart attack and die because you've mixed so many compounds. But if you've been super cool and I like you, maybe just maybe I'll allow you to have super strength and super speed at the same time because I appreciate your existence today.
There you go. There you go. If they need a win, it's okay to be like, hey, it works.
Maybe they
You
won
know?
all session. I just like them. Maybe they lost all session because I hate them. That's also a possibility.
You never know. Garrett just rolls for it.
I'm the Mad Hatter of DMs. What can I say? No, I would play that
Love
fair.
it.
I would do it fair. I'm just kidding, but
Okay. So
it would be fair. It'd be a roll of the dice. And it would also
so
depend on
I'm
like the colors. Maybe would the colors come into like can you if you put a red wire on a blue wire, like that's I mean I've seen Die Hard. I know that's not something you should do or cross the streams. So like
don't do
two
that.
blue potions maybe like a mana potion and something else or like two red potions. It's kind of like keeping your alcohol colors the same. Like you should keep lights if you're drinking lights or darks if you're drinking darks. Don't mix those, otherwise you're gonna have a bad time. I think it kind of falls in line with that maybe. So you gotta ask your, or if you're doing a homebrew world, you could ask your player what color is that potion, and then you could be like, what color is that potion? Like you just set yourself up for failure. Oh, that's unfortunate. You didn't even know what I was getting at. You fell
It's
into
true.
my ploy. Haha.
They're
Classic
all
blunder.
clear.
Everything's black and white
Classic blunder.
if you're colorblind.
Exactly.
So I'm glad we dived into this a little bit. And also, fun fact, did you know that all three of you are somewhat in line with the DMG because this, in fact, is in the book Rules as Written. You can go in and search Miscibility, and there is a potion miscibility table. I feel like Tanner's looking at it right now. He's like, I'm gonna find it.
Yep.
I think it's on like page 140 or something. 140 something.
Now this looks like a variant rule, but a character might drink one potion while still under the effects of another, or pour several potions. I only said two. This is straight out of the book.
Several.
Or pour several potions. Yeah, I want to take the growing potion, speed, little heal giant strength, and why not a health potion? It's just to get crazy. Woo. Um, And then a dragon breath potion because I want to be a giant breathing dragon, fast everything. I want all of it. But into a single container, these strange ingredients used in creating potions can create unpredictable interactions. When the character mixes them, you can roll on the potion miscibility table. Um, and if more than two are combined, roll again for each subsequent potion, combining the results. So the more you want to add, the more crazy it's going to get. That sounds fun. Unless the effects are immediately obvious, reveal them only when they become evident. So if you drank one that might make you really strong, you'd have to test it out. Like, am I really strong? I guess. But there's some really fun things on here. Like Tanner, like you suggested, you roll a 1 on this table, it explodes and it deals 6d10 force damage to the mixer, and
Whoa.
1d10 force damage to each creature within 5 feet of the mixer.
Amazing.
So do that at your own risk. That's on a 1, and this is a D100 table, by the way. Um,
Wow.
or it could become poison of the DM's choice. That's fun. Both potions lose their effect, so you're just drinking some nasty water. Um, one potion loses its effect, DM gets to choose. Both potions work, but their effects and durations are halved. Um, or both potions work normally, so that's really fun. But this keeps getting better and better. The numerical effects and duration of both are doubled, so that's really fun. And here's my favorite one. If you roll a nat 100 on this D100 table, only one potion works, but its effect is permanent.
I know.
Whoa.
I was seeing that and I was like, that's kind of fun. That's amazing.
How'd that
Choose the
work for like a
simplest
health
effect,
potion?
is what it
Ah,
says.
okay.
Yes, it does elaborate a little bit more. It says choose the simplest effect to make permanent, or the one that seems the most fun. It says that. I love that it says that exactly.
Roll of
The
fun,
one that
let's
seems
go!
the
I know.
Sometimes, Watsy gets it right. For example, a potion of healing might increase the drinker's hit point maximum by 4. Or an oil of etherealness might permanently trap the user in the ethereal plane. At your discretion, an appropriate spell, such as Dispel Magic or Remove Curse, might end this lasting effect. Um, so that could be really, really fun. It could blow up in your face, literally, or you could get superpowers forever.
Sweet.
um, yeah, this is fun.
I know.
Um,
It's great.
so now, who wants to make a character that just mixes a lot of potions together and just drink that shit?
Right? That's my
Like,
strategy to take down the baddie at the end of the game. Just mix every potion and hope for a nat 1.
I mean, just mix it and throw it at the guy or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Little Molotov cocktail. Garrett, and I just want you to have a little heads up. I might do this with Moonshine Mana, and I just want you to think about that. And
Go
if
ham, buddy.
Justin and Tanner, if y'all don't know what Moonshine Mana is, ooh, buddy, it's a good time.
I
It's a
know we
good
were talking about it on the
time.
Instagram live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
My
nice.
freaking goodness.
Just one heads up. I actually do have to hop off. I had a hard stop. I should have told you guys, but thank you guys so much for having me here. And Tanner, you
Well,
continue representing How to Be a
we're
Better
actually
DM.
at about an hour and
Oh.
10 minutes in, so I think it might be a good time to just kind of wrap it up, and
Oh.
then we can all
Yeah.
go together if you can hang on for like another 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all good with me. I over prepared too much content for the session.
You're not a Discovery podcaster, Chris.
So
Yeah, Chris.
that's what happened. I'm not. I over prepared. My apologies. But I really do appreciate the two of you coming in and jumping in. This is really fun. I'm glad to meet y'all. And like I said, a fan of the podcast. And feel free to tell everybody where can we find you on all the things.
Yeah, the best place to go is betterdungeonmaster.com/listen. That's where you can find where the podcast is. Our Instagram is How to Be a Better DM. Pretty simple. And Tanner, how can people find you? I guess just How to Be a Better DM.
Yeah, honestly, Instagram at how to be a better DM or my personal one at Tanman Playing. But yeah, just reach out. We got a podcast, so listen, okay?
Yeah.
Gosh.
And
Yeah,
thank you guys for having us here. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's been awesome. It's been fun conversations, and we wish you guys the best. Chris, you have any
Hey,
closing
same
words?
to you guys.
everybody just make sure to go give them a listen. They're really solid people. They got great stuff that happening over there at How to Be a Better DM. But with that, Garrett, do you want to take us out?
Sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be at your back. May your rolls be 20s and your DMs and GMs gentle. And until we meet each other again, my friends, may a friend hold you close. And I'll talk to you all again. We'll all talk to you all again real soon. Have a lovely evening and take care.
See you guys.
Fear not, Ranger.
Now what do I do? Okay, this is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons video game cartridge.
Your dungeon master has placed you in a dreadfully precarious position. You're playing the most phenomenal